the village lay hidden deep within the forest, accessible only by a dirt road that had long since been reclaimed by weeds. Few maps marked its existence, and those who lived in the nearest towns spoke of it only in hushed tones. It was known simply as the Lost Village. Once, in the late 1800s, it had been a thriving settlement of farmers, miners, and tradesmen. But then, without warning, the population dwindled. Entire families vanished. Doors were left open, meals sat rotting on tables, livestock died in their pens. By the early 1900s, the place was abandoned, shunned, and slowly consumed by the forest. A century later, a group of young documentarians, James, Clara, Mark, and Evelyn, set out to investigate. They weren't ghost hunters by trade, they were historians with cameras. But the stories surrounding the village had grown darker with every retelling. Murder, cult rituals, sacrifices, and always, whispers of children's laughter echoing through the empty streets. The group arrived just before dusk, the golden sun casting eerie shadows across collapsed roofs and leaning church steeples. The silence was oppressive. No birds sang. No wind stirred. James set up his camera immediately, recording their first impressions. Evelyn lingered near the overgrown cemetery, her eyes drawn to gravestones that seemed far too small. There are so many child graves, she whispered. Clara touched her shoulder gently. We'll find the truth. That's why we're here. But the village, silent and watching, seemed to have other plans. They chose the abandoned tavern as their base of operations. Dust lay thick on the floors, and broken bottles littered the bar. On one wall, faded posters warned of an unknown illness that had spread through the area in 1893. As night fell, the silence deepened. James documented each room by lantern light. His camera caught glimpses of strange markings etched into the wooden beams, circles, crosses, and crude symbols that no one recognized. Mark tried to laugh it off, probably old miners getting drunk and carving things. Nothing more. But Clara wasn't so sure. She had studied ritualistic markings during her research. These weren't random. They were warnings. Outside, the forest groaned with the weight of a storm that never broke. Evelyn sat by the window, staring into the darkness. She swore she saw figures moving between the trees, but when James turned the camera that way, the shadows dissolved. Then came the scratching. The tavern's rafters groaned. Scratch. 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 Then, whispers. Leave. The lantern flickered, died, and words appeared on the wall in smeared darkness. Get out before you join us. When James's camera flash went off, the wall revealed pale faces pressed against the wood, their mouths twisted in silent screams, and from the ruins outside came the sound of children's laughter. By morning, exhaustion weighed on the group. Mark was the first to snap. He claimed he couldn't sleep, that something had stood over him in the night. James dismissed it as nerves, but Evelyn backed him up. She had heard footsteps circling her sleeping bag. They decided to split into pairs. James and Clara took the church. Mark and Evelyn searched the schoolhouse. The church was rotten but still standing. A cracked Bible lay open on the altar, its pages stuck together by time. Carved into the pews were words over and over again: "Forgive us. Forgive us. Forgive us." Meanwhile, Mark and Evelyn entered the schoolhouse. Tiny desks sat in rows, chalk still on the board as if the children had simply walked out mid-lesson. On the back wall, a list of names was written. Each name had been crossed out violently in red. Then Evelyn screamed. Mark turned just in time to see her vanish through the floorboards, as though something beneath had pulled her down. He clawed at the rotten wood, but she was gone. When the others arrived, only Evelyn's recorder was left behind, still running. The last words captured on tape were her terrified whisper, "It's touching me. Oh God, it's here." The loss shattered the group. Mark was frantic, his guilt consuming him. He claimed he saw a hand, gray and skeletal, dragging Evelyn down. James insisted it was an accident, but even he couldn't explain the deep gouges in the wood, marks that looked like fingernails. Clara replayed Evelyn's recorder again and again, searching for answers. Between Evelyn's cries, there was another sound: children singing a lullaby in a language no one understood. That night, Mark vanished too. His sleeping bag was empty, but his boots remained. The door to the tavern had never opened. James and Clara were alone. Determined to find answers, James and Clara returned to the church. They discovered a hidden trapdoor beneath the altar, leading to a cellar. Inside were dozens of small coffins, stacked like firewood. Many had been forced open. On the walls were old police reports and sketches tacked up with rusty nails. The words mass murder were scrawled in shaky handwriting. A single newspaper clipping told of an 1894 investigation into a ritual killing involving 13 children. As Clara read the reports aloud, James felt a presence behind him. Turning quickly, he caught sight of a figure in the shadows, a man in a priest's robes, face hidden, holding a bloodied axe. But when James blinked, the figure was gone. Then, from the coffins, came the sound of knocking. The final night fell heavy with dread. Clara grew distant, whispering to herself, her recorder clutched tightly. James tried to pull her back, but she only repeated one phrase: "They want us to stay. They need more." At midnight, the tavern door creaked open on its own. James raised his camera, recording the black void beyond. From the darkness stepped children, dozens of them, pale and translucent, their eyes hollow pits. They surrounded Clara, who smiled eerily and dropped her recorder. "I'll stay with them," she whispered. The children's hands reached out, pulling her into the shadows. Her scream echoed, then cut short. James was alone. He ran into the night, through the broken streets, until he reached the cemetery. But there, carved freshly into one of the gravestones, was his name. James's camera was later found by hikers. The footage was fragmented, distorted, filled with static. But the screams were clear. The whispers unmistakable. No trace of the group was ever found. The village remains abandoned, though locals claim that on still nights, if you walk near the forest, you can hear children laughing, and in the tavern, a recorder still plays, endlessly repeating Clara's final words: "They need more." The story of the Lost Village murder left a scar on the collective psyche. Listeners reported sleepless nights, paranoia, and a deep unease around abandoned places. Some historians drew parallels to real-life cases of mass disappearances, such as Roanoke Colony, 1580s, USA. An entire settlement vanished without a trace. Hinterkaifeck Murders, 1922, Germany. A family brutally murdered on their farm, with whispers of hauntings afterward. Villisca Axe Murders, 1912, USA. Children and adults slain in their home, the killer never caught. Like these, the Lost Village serves as a chilling reminder that silence, emptiness, and laughter can sometimes be more terrifying than screams.